Hello, everyone. This is John Zorn, Executive Director of ArtsReach. Welcome to our webinar today. We've been holding this series of webinars because we aren't able to hold conferences right now. Soon, this series of free webinars will end, and we'll be offering, for a small monthly fee, a comprehensive package of webinars, virtual roundtable discussions, and pro bono consultations on the best ways to move forward given the times that we find ourselves in. So watch your inbox for that announcement. But for now, from the comfort of your own home office, please sit back and enjoy this webinar by Sarah Cho, Senior Search Analyst at Capacity Interactive. And if you have any questions for Sarah, just type them into the question box and we'll handle those questions at the end of her presentation. So take it away, Sarah, and welcome.
Great. Hi, everyone, and thank you for the introduction, John. My name is Sarah Cho, and today we'll spend this time talking about foundations of search as a marketing channel and some practical steps you can take from this session to take your search marketing to the next level. So we have a full set of items to go through, starting from the technical mechanics of search on the back end to setting up search campaigns, to some best practices and how to best utilize some of the resources you may already have. So again, my name is Sarah Cho, just because you can't see me, here's a picture of me. And when I was first preparing for the session, this was back in February, which seems like it was ages ago. And since then, it's definitely not an exaggeration to say that our worlds have really turned upside down, and a lot has certainly changed since then. I think it's important to acknowledge these changes and shifts in the world, but also think about how it might change and influence how we approach our work. But I also think it's important to acknowledge some underlying behavior and ways that we live that haven't changed, because I think that speaks to a lot about ways that we can shape our strategy for this moment. So I want to take a couple of slides and a couple of moments right now to talk about how things have changed and also have not changed. So here's a Google trend for coronavirus in the past 12 months. And as you can see, there was a spike sometime in March and it continues to be heightened. There's a lot that we want to know about what's going on that directly affects our work, our family, and the community, and that's certainly reflected in this graph. By the way, this is a tool called Google Trends that you can use as a way to gauge how much interest there is in certain times for certain terms, as this data is gathered by Google over time. There's also a way to narrow it down by geography and time that makes it very interesting for us to take a look at the trends. But looking at this graph, something hasn't changed. That's our instinct and innate curiosity to create for information and to want answers. And I think that's certainly reflected in how we turn to internet and search engines like Google to get those in-the-moment questions answered. We also have seen a surge in searches that include open ? And I think this truly reflects our circumstances, that now that we're hoping for things to open back up, we want to know and we want information regarding whether a certain restaurant is open, a venue is open, or any location is open. And of course, it's natural that what people are searching for has shifted, and that's shaped by our situation. Terms like things to do at home have spiked, how-to and educational searches have increased significantly as schools are closed and certain services aren't available at our disposal anymore. And of course, we also saw an increase in online workout searches as we're desperately trying to stay active for our sanity. So with all these shifts as context, I think it really revealed to us what hasn't changed. So what does this say about search as a channel? So search is a way for people to get accurate, relevant, and timely information. So as marketers, we need to provide accurate, relevant, and timely information through ads and campaigns we're running or through web pages that we're managing. And given our innate curiosity to want information and answers, it is no surprise that Google handles trillions of searches per year and over 40,000 search queries every second on average. That's a lot, and I can't even wrap my head around it. Even when we think about our own behavior, we might turn to Google to find recipes, research on the best tech gadget, or get information or news about what is happening in the world. And with that in mind, 80% of all online activities start on search engines, and 41% of web users navigate to websites through Google search rather than typing a URL in. So even if we know where we want to head and we have an exact destination or brand in mind, we still heavily rely on search feature rather than remembering URLs to be able to get to where we need to. And later on in this presentation and the webinar, we'll discuss why this is significant and important. So with all of that said, I think it's no surprise that search engines are now our home pages. This is everyone's starting point in any of their journey online, and that is something that we need to accept and think about so that we can adapt our strategies. And of course, there are numerous search engines like Google, Bing, Yahoo, Baidu of China, Yandex of Russia, et cetera, et cetera. But just like how we're so used to saying, you should Google that, or I'm going to Google it, Google has 88% of market share as of October 2019 worldwide, and 63% market share in the United States. So in this presentation, we'll talk about Google when it comes to search engines, but a lot of the same concepts apply across most search engines. Prior to spending more time at home, we were certainly addicted to our devices. And when there are in-the-moment questions, these mobile devices were more easily accessible on the go, and we depended on them, whether it's looking up information or helping us navigate to a location. An average person checks their phone 50 times per day, and this was data from before shelter in place. I checked my count yesterday, and it was about 50 times, even though I was spending majority of my time at my computer and had ready access to my computer. And this is certainly how I look when I can't find my phone usually, but even when I'm spending more time inside and I just know my phone is somewhere in my small apartment, sometimes I still get this anxiety when I can't find my phone. The reason I want to emphasize on mobile is because this data is from pre-COVID, but I want to make sure to note it because we know the shelter in place won't last forever. There will be a new norm that will take us outside of our homes, even though it may not seem like that will be possible soon. So it's important to note that 58% of organic search engine visits were on mobile devices, and this was on an upward trend every year. Also, 69% of smartphone owners turn to mobile search in a moment of need. This moment of need might be trying to look up an address when you're out and about, or searching for operating hours of a pharmacy. So if you reflect on your own behavior on your phone, I think that might you might be able to relate how reliant we are on our phones. And it's also important to note that 65% of transactions start on mobile and end somewhere else. I think this is indicating that mobile devices aren't just for research or information gathering, but they're also used for things like transaction for tickets or donations. And knowing that in the arts industry, our main goal is either ticket sales or donations, I think this is a significant data that tells us that we need to focus on mobile searches as well. However, of course, this shelter in place and COVID has really changed all the things and all our behavior. One interesting note with COVID is that even though as we have started to spend more time at home, it changed how we quote unquote internet and also use online tools. So New York Times early April published this article that said we're looking to connect and entertain ourselves, but we're turning away from our phones. For example, Facebook's usage increased 27% on web browser versus 1% on their app, while YouTube saw a decline in the usage of the app while seeing an increase on the website. Even though we might see a fluctuation in what device we are using at the moment, I still want to emphasize that the goal of search is to answer searchers in the moment questions. And given the trends of increase in mobile traffic year after year, I think there's a great chance that mobile devices will continue to be an important factor of consideration in search marketing. Now that we have a general idea of the landscape of search and people's behavior on search, especially given the context of the world we live in, we'll get into search engine marketing more specifically. So for nonprofits, search has 3 prongs. First is Google Grant Account, which is based on the Google Ad Grant program that we'll discuss later on, and paid Google account, which is using real media dollars, and then last is organic search. For today, we'll discuss Google Grant Account and paid Google account because organic search itself has a lot to uncover, and we'll probably need more than an hour to cover that topic. I'm sure there's a varying level of familiarity with this topic, so I want to make sure that we're all speaking the same language. So paid search or search engine marketing is how we rank at the top of the page. And these listings will note that it's an ad by having some kind of notation that says it's an ad. Whereas organic results show up below the paid results, and it's from Google crawling your website and reading the website to give these results. The way we rank higher organically is by search engine optimizations. And for organic results, we're not bidding or paying money to show up. So first, we'll think about how search in general works. So if we think about the process, we type in search terms in the search bar, and then we'll see a bunch of listings on the page. And then we'll convert by clicking through to a web page or taking other actions on the web page or website, like making a call or providing email addresses to join the email list. So let's take a real example. Let's say I'm looking for Broadway tickets. I'll type in Broadway tickets in the search bar and press enter. And then I'll be seeing this whole listing on this page. We call this page search engine results page. And I'm now going to have to make a decision on which listing I want to click on. So I'll do a brief scan of the page on what I see, and then ultimately navigate to a website to find more information about tickets or shows, and hopefully down the road, make a purchase. So as you saw in the example, search is a user-centric and user-driven. That means there's no way for searchers to see those listings on the search engine results page unless they actively opt themselves into seeing those results by searching something. This is, I would say, the biggest difference from social campaigns like Facebook or Instagram, and is an important point to remember when you're working in this channel. So then the question of how do we use search channel in the best way possible, and how do we run search campaigns in an efficient and smart way? That's the question that certainly comes up. So in order to do that, I think it's important to learn the rules of the search engine marketing to play better than everyone else. So we'll take a look at what search engines prioritize. So this is taken from Google's statement on their approach to search, and I think it really reveals about what they consider to be important when it comes to their search algorithm. This covers everything from privacy to information organization and gathering. And I've highlighted ones that are important for search marketing. First is to deliver the most relevant and reliable information available. And next is to present information in the most useful way. So the common theme here is relevance. Search engines want to make sure that they're going to provide useful information to whoever is seeking the information or have questions, because as searchers and users, we want timely and useful information. That means as marketers, we need to play by these rules and make sure that our campaigns are focused on relevance. So now that we have the framework of search campaign covered, how does search engine marketing work? And it's important to remember that search engine marketing is a process that uses an auction and ranking system to determine the ad order. That means there's an auction that pretty much works in a similar way as what we traditionally think of as an auction. So there are bids and marketers are bidding on certain searches, and search engines will take that bid and order listings, the ad listings, in the order that won that search. So in a process, it might look like this. We type in search terms, and instantaneously, the auction starts on the back end. And Google is looking at all the marketers who are in that auction and who are bidding on those keywords. And then they rank those ads and show it to the searchers on search engine results page. And when I think about this, I'm always very impressed at how quickly those searches, search engine results page show up after I search a term, because all of this is happening on the back end. Then the searcher will go through the process of scanning the page and making a decision to convert by clicking or navigating to a different page, or continue their search with a different search term. So then that would be a conversion. As search engine's goal is to make the tool as useful to the searchers as possible, there are many other factors that is considered than just bid. And as you can imagine, if they only considered bid, then it would open up a huge possibility for the system to break down very quickly, because those companies or organizations with lots of money and a huge budget for search campaigns might win all the auctions. But as you can see on this list, they have multiple factors that they look at, and I've highlighted ones that are related to relevance or quality. So it's not just how much money you're spending or how much you're bidding on a certain keyword that makes or breaks the campaign, but also the quality of the ads and keywords. So ultimately, if we increase relevance, we're able to achieve similar results with lower bids by spending less money. And if we're less relevant, we may have to spend a little bit more money to achieve similar performance. So again, relevance, relevance, relevance. This becomes especially important as these auctions can get very competitive, especially for top or higher positions on the search engine results page. And these next couple of slides will really show you why that is. So here's a search engine results page on desktop computers. We'll see up to 4 ads at the top of the search engine results page for competitive auctions, and these ads usually dominate the results page, so we're seeing ads constantly. So in order to set your listings apart, you can also use ad extensions to increase the amount of ad real estate, and we'll definitely talk about this more later on. If you didn't know, there are also listings at the bottom of the page that you may or may not have realized, because not a lot of people actually scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page, and maybe rarely to the second page. On mobile devices, however, up to 4 ads can show just like desktop, but these ads take up a lot of space. So very often only 2 ads show up before you have to scroll down to the next ad. So if you're not running search campaigns, then you're putting more obstacles in your way to be in front of those people who are looking for you. Another reason these top positions are competitive is that top slots are likely to get clicked. So if it's a non-branded search, that means whoever was searching did not necessarily have a predetermined idea of where they wanted to land and was looking in general categories. So they'll be more swayed by what they see in ads and especially what they see first. So 99 to 100% clicks for non-branded keywords come from ads in the top slot. There's also a higher click-through rate for ads at the top slot versus ads in other positions on mobile. This may not be a surprise to you, especially because those ads take up so much space on your small phone screen. So there's 16 to 22 times higher click-through rate, and that is definitely significant. So now that we know how search works and how a ranking system and search engine marketing works, we'll go into how search campaigns are set up on the back end. So there are largely 4 components of search campaigns. Those are keywords, ads, ad extensions, and targeting, as well as bid settings. We'll focus today on the first 3, mostly because there's so much to uncover in all these components, and targeting and bid setting is something that all campaigns on Google or search engines like display or shopping or app campaigns use, and most of these will seem less technical and slightly more strategic depending on your goal. So I want to focus on components that is very unique to search campaigns today. So first, we have keywords. These are words or phrases that describe your product or services. These are keywords that our patrons are likely going to search for on the internet if they're looking for us. So if I am a museum shop, I might have keywords like Monet postcard, museum shop open hours, or books on Picasso. Or if I'm selling tickets to a jazz performance, I might have keywords like jazz club near me, jazz concert tonight, jazz concert live stream. So we want to cover keywords that potential patrons who may not know us might use, and these are called non-branded searches, as well as keywords that our regular loyal patrons might use, and these are called branded searches. Next component goes along with the keywords, and it's keyword match types. Match types indicate to Google how closely or loosely we want the algorithm to match the keywords we're bidding on. There are trillions of searches per day, as we saw in the earlier portion of the webinar, and 1 in every 7 searches have never been searched before. So I would say it is almost impossible to keep up with ever-evolving trends of what people are searching. So keyword match types indicate how much we're allowing and how much we want search engines to deviate from what we're actively bidding on as keywords. For example, if we're bidding on the keyword classical concert tickets, we can lean on these match types to make sure that we can possibly enter auctions for people looking for piano concert tickets, even if we're not actively looking for that term. Or we can also restrict it so that we will only show up for classical concerts and not piano concerts. And that is all used with these match types. As we go down the list of match types that you see on the screen, we're getting stricter with search engines, whereas broad, which is at the top of the list, would be the most loose indicator. One thing to keep in mind is that search engines are constantly evolving how these algorithms function. So it's extremely important to be up to date on these changes, as well as keep a close eye on the campaigns and the accounts to see how it's affecting your campaign. Now, next, this is an ad group. So an ad group organizes all the keywords that we have and that we have brainstormed into buckets. And as we said, relevance is an important factor in search engine marketing. So as a result, dividing keywords into relevant groups that are focused on a theme makes it easier to keep that relevance as close as possible. So think of ad groups as small buckets where you're organizing all the keywords you want to bid on. Now, a campaign holds multiple ad groups, and we often use campaigns as a way to organize different categories of products or services. So it will hold multiple ad groups. Keep in mind that budget can only be adjusted on campaign level. So if there's a line of service that you need to limit budget for, or you want to make sure that certain keywords or certain services don't run with the full budget, then you want to make sure that they're in a separate campaign so you can pace and manage the budget separately. So in a diagram that is a little bit more digestible, this is a visual of what a campaign might look like. So under one umbrella of the campaigns, you have multiple ad groups. You can have as many ad groups as you need, but under one campaign, you'll house all the ad groups that are related to the campaign or the line of service, and there will be keyword lists within each ad group that is related to the theme of the ad group. And keep in mind that all of this is happening on the back end. So whoever is searching for your organization will never really see how ad groups are organized or what the campaign name is or what kind of keywords you're necessarily bidding on. Now we're going to move on to the public-facing portion and the creative side of the search campaigns, which are ads. So ads have three parts: headline text, display URL, and description text. There are limitations on how many characters you can use for headline and description. Headlines are 30, descriptions are 90, and this format is also ever changing and evolving as search engines continue to tweak how their search engine results page look. But the important part here is that we make the ads relevant to the keywords. As you can also see, I've listed various types of search ads. The bottom two are more automated versions. The one we're going to focus on today is expanded text ads, as those require a little bit more care and work on the back end to build that into the campaign. So here's an example of an ad on a search engine results page. What has been highlighted is the actual ad, and all the parts that's not highlighted are ad extensions, which we'll talk about in the next slide. So headlines, as you can see, are in blue, and they're the clickable link, and descriptions are in plain black text. Each headline is divided by a pipe, but as you can see here, we can have up to 3 headlines, but have only 2 shown here. And we can also have 2 descriptions, but there's only 1 description shown here. That's because third headlines and second descriptions are optional from Google's perspective. So depending on the search, Google will choose to show these or not. So a suggestion for ad copywriting is to make sure you're putting all the important information in the first 2 headlines and first description. Another note is make sure you're utilizing keywords you're bidding on in the ad copy. For example, if you build an ad group for the season subscription, you may have keywords like organization name subscription or organization name season subscription. In the ad copy, you want to utilize those keywords as much as possible so that there's high relevancy between keywords and ad copy. So we're constantly taking this back to relevancy. We also want to take as much language from a landing page on your website so that we can continue that relevancy from keywords to ad copy all the way to a landing page. Now, ad extensions are all added on bonus that will show on the search engine results page. There are multiple types of ad extensions, and search engines are continuing to include new ones, but these are similar to headline 3 and description 2 because we can't force ad extensions to show. They'll show up based on real estate availability on search engine results page on that specific auction. So if it's a very competitive auction, you may not see an ad extension showing. So here are all the ad extensions that are shown with this specific ad. Ad extensions increase click-through rate and make an ad more enticing to click through because it makes the listing more noticeable. And some ad extensions give searchers multiple options to click through, just like here. So each of these 4 site links you see below will take the searcher to their respective page, which makes anyone's search process a lot easier because you don't have to navigate to the home page before trying to find these pages. So structurally, this is what the campaign might look like. Under one umbrella of campaign, we have multiple ad group themes, and each theme will have its own set of keyword lists that is relevant to that theme, and ads and ad extensions that are relevant to the ad group. Ad extensions can also be applied on the campaign level or account level, so that really depends on what your needs are. So now that we have discussed the structure of the campaign, we'll go into some best practices in search engine marketing, which hopefully will help you to figure out what changes you might want to make in your existing campaign. So my first recommendation is when brainstorming keywords, consider a full funnel of a patient's journey, and it's easier to think of it from the lens of permission marketing. That's a term coined by Seth Godin, which is the idea that we want to market in anticipated, personal, and relevant way. And through that, we'll make strangers to friends, friends to customers, and customers to evangelists. And relatedly, we talk about the funnel all the time, and it helps us to understand where a customer is in their journey to becoming evangelists when they might have started off as a stranger. So as you're brainstorming keywords, I would encourage you to think about what a stranger who doesn't know about the brand that makes our organization relevant to their life. That might mean leaning into more genre keywords like jazz concert hear me or live theater performance tonight, etc. These would be top of the funnel searches, whereas bottom of the funnel search might be keywords that include brand name because they're already customers or evangelists of the organization. So let's take an example. Here's an example of a top of the funnel search, which is family activities in Seattle. So I haven't made much decision other than I want it to be a family activity and I want it to be in Seattle. As I continue my journey and I continue to research, my middle of the funnel search might be theater in Seattle. So out of all the family activities, I made a decision that I want to see a theater performance. And then my bottom of the funnel search might be after researching multiple theaters in the area, I have decided that I want to see a Raisin in the Sun. And that's why my bottom of the funnel search is going to be a theater Raisin in the Sun tickets because I'm ready to purchase those tickets. My next recommendation is to brainstorm and bucket keywords into ad groups based on theme and relevancy. I think this is an important step that makes the campaign successful and also easy to manage. So this step really helps and sets up a great foundation for campaign management as well as applying other recommendations that I have, which is to create an ad copy that is relevant to the keywords in the ad group. Keep in mind that this is to make sure we're quote unquote winning the auction, and also for the searcher's optimal experience that if there is alignment from the keywords they're putting into ads, they're seeing to the website they're landing on. One other added benefit is that if the ad copy has words from the search term people are putting in the search bar, those will be bolded, which will also help to make your ad listing pop. So in this case, you see in the ad, words like deals or tickets and Broadway have all been bolded, and that is going to make your ad pop compared to ones below you that might not have those words. My next recommendation is to utilize ad extensions. As you see here, the top listing has site links, which makes the ad listing pop and take up way more real estate than without ad extensions. Search engine results pages are very competitive, so you should make sure to have that available to be as competitive as possible. Lastly, you want to continuously optimize the campaigns using data, and we'll talk about a couple of ways you can use tools in the Google Ads to optimize a campaign once you've launched it. But before we get into optimization, I want to briefly talk through Google Ad Grant Program so that as it's a great resource for eligible nonprofits, especially during this time. So I know many organizations are already utilizing Google Grant accounts, but if you don't already and you're an eligible 501c3 organization, apply and take full advantage of this program. Capacity Interactive is part of the Google Ad Grant Certified Professionals community, and we work very closely on this program with Google. And this is a great program that provides up to $10,000 in-kind media dollar you can use towards search, but of course with certain limitations. Though it can be tricky at times to manage, it's an extremely valuable channel to take advantage of, especially in a time when we might be limited with media budget. While the setup of the grant account is pretty self-explanatory as you go through the process on Google's end, here are a couple of recommendations that will help you in the long run. So first, allow for a couple of weeks for a full application process and maybe more now that a lot is happening in the world. And secondly, I would also recommend creating a separate email address that is for Google account access so that it is not contingent on one person to have access to the account. What we have often seen is that the account that is created by an individual, so that the only email address attached is one employee's email address. And when that person leaves or is no longer with the organization, no one has access to the account, which creates an issue that is much harder to fix. So you can have multiple email addresses with one attached to one account. So if you're the marketing manager and you want your email to have access to the account with your email address, you can certainly do that. But I would just make sure that is not the only email for the account. We've also seen those email addresses disappear, or for some reason, organizations lose access to those email accounts. So if there is a way to share the login information securely within the team, I would do that so that getting a grant account back isn't a total nightmare. It is actually much difficult to get a grant account back that you lost access to than creating a new one. But once an account is created with that specific tax ID, it is very difficult to go through that process, and it takes a really long time. So make sure you don't lose access to the account. And lastly, label the account as grant account and don't attach credit card information or payment information because the way Google grant accounts operate is that it doesn't require invoicing or payment, even though media is being spent. But once you attach credit card information or payment information, it will automatically register as a regular ad account and start invoicing you. And in that case, you have to create another grant account and go through the same process. So I would just make sure that you label the grant account and make it very clear to whoever has access knows to not attach payment information. So now that we've talked about setup of Google Ads grants, we're going to go into optimization recommendations. These recommendations also apply to regular ad campaigns, so you can use this all across regardless of what kinds of campaigns they are. So first recommendation is to focus on conversion goal rather than spend. So a lot of questions that I get is when it comes to grant account is how can we spend the full $10,000? Though we do want to maximize what we are able to spend, once we start focusing on the spend, that is going to not yield results for the account, and there's a higher chance of losing the eligibility for the account because we're not going to be as relevant and focused in our campaigns. And in a regular paid campaigns, you're also going to be working with a limited amount of budget. So instead of focusing on how can we maximize the amount that we're spending in grant accounts, I would focus on conversion goals. So this is a view on Google Ads. And in tools and settings, there's measurement. And if you navigate to the conversion section, there are 4 conversion actions that you can select. What I would recommend is either using website to track sales or other actions on your website, like people navigating to a certain page or clicking on a button that you want people to click on. That could be a buy tickets button or donate button or a view class schedule button. By focusing on those conversion goals, you'll be able to be more focused on how you want to pivot and optimize the campaign. Second recommendation for optimization is to examine search terms. So as we talked about search keyword match types, we're telling Google that certain amount of leeway for them to match our keywords to search terms that we are not actively bidding on. So what could happen is that our ads are being shown to searches that might not be as relevant as we want it to be. That could be because your organization name is pretty broad, or your organization, the acronym for your organization is same as a different organization that has nothing to do with your line of work. So one way you can look in Google Ads is to go to keyword section, which you can see on the left panel, and navigate to search terms. And if there are any search terms that you don't want to be shown to, for example, if it's inappropriate or if it's just not relevant to your organization, you can add it as a negative keyword, and that is indicating to Google that we do not want to show for those searches. Next recommendation is to utilize rules. So I know you're probably wearing multiple hats in your organization and you don't necessarily have time to always check in the campaigns every single day and think about search campaigns 24/7. So in tools and setting, if you go to bulk actions and under rules, you can set multiple rules that will either send you an email notification for disapproved ads, or you can have some auto action to automatically pause keywords with a certain quality score so that you're not necessarily having to go in and make those changes every single day, and it's being done for you. Last recommendation is to utilize drafts and experiments. It's at the bottom of the navigation menu on the left in the actual platform of Google Ads. And this is essentially what it looks like. It gives you option to split test ad copy, bidding strategies, or your account setup. And it's a great way for you to have data backed up to support any kind of change you want to make in the account. And lastly, if you need any inspiration on what changes you need to make, I would suggest utilizing recommendation tab that is on the left. That is usually the second option. That's Google's way of providing ideas to you so that you can maximize a campaign performance. And those are all pretty personalized based on what is happening in the account. And the last note is for Google Grant accounts, use account-wide data to make decisions. As I said, there are certain limitations in the account that will prevent you to make lots of granular optimization. There's definitely less lever to pull. So I would use account-wide data because that is going to give you a better idea of the roadmap that you need to take for success. Lastly, I want to talk about going beyond search. So, of course, with search, we're navigating people to your website. So one thing that Google looks at when it comes to the search campaigns is how fast your website is. So if you're able to take a look at your web page speed and make certain tweaks to improve it, then that will certainly help the performance of your search campaigns. This is a free tool by Google. It's called Page Speed Insights that will give you tangible next steps and what you need to change on your website to improve the speed. There's also a similar tool for mobile site speed. As we've talked about in this webinar, mobile is heavily used because it's such an easy access to internet, and Google is taking mobile site speed into account when they're looking at your quality score and the quality of your search campaigns. So I would recommend also using this free tool by Google called Test My Site, which will also allow you to make comparison on maybe your competitor or other organizations in your vertical. That will give you an insight into where and benchmark into where your organization stands in terms of mobile site speed and provide some actionable steps that will help you speed up your mobile site. So all in all, here are the takeaways from today's webinar. first takeaway is that search engine marketing, or SEM, is a user-centric channel that plays a critical step in the consumer's journey. So it's a process that uses an auction and ranking system to determine the ad order on the search engine results page. And there are lots of components that will affect the campaign and the performance. But as we've said all throughout this webinar, relevance is important. Next, you want to organize keywords into ad groups and campaigns to maximize the relevance between keywords and ads. You want to use this organization tool to your advantage because that is going to make managing campaigns a lot easier. Lastly, optimize, test, and keep testing based on data, and use the tools provided by Google or other search engines and data that is available so that you're able to make the right optimizations and pivot and changes to the performance or the campaigns. Lastly, if you text capacity in one word to 33777, you'll receive resources to help you market smarter. You'll receive a text asking for your email, and after you respond with your address, check your inbox for the email full of marketing resources. So that is all I have prepared today. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me at sarah@capacityinteractive.com.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Or you can just type your question in right now to the question box, and we'll have Sarah answer them. So don't be bashful. Go right ahead. And here's one for you, Sarah. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. I've had problems with Google ad grants. They said as a 501c3 theater, we can't sell tickets with our ads. Is this normal?
We have definitely gotten that pushback. I think ad grants are such a small part of their overall Google ads. So I would try calling their help center or the helpline and explain to them that as a nonprofit, your profit from the ticket sale is going back into the organization. And sometimes I think just getting to talk to multiple people is helpful, and something that we found to be helpful for us and the clients that we work with is that because we're part of the professional community, we have a slightly more faster way to address those problems. But I would definitely say talk to multiple ad grants or ad help. And I know it's definitely frustrating. I totally hear your frustration, but I found that that is a way for them to approve running campaigns.
Okay, Sarah, can you back up to that second to last slide? There's some people who want to get that text number again. There you go. Thank you. All right, there it is. Very good. Okay, more questions. Now's your chance. Here we go, Sarah. With COVID and with constant changes in programming, what changes should we make in search campaigns?
Yeah, I think as things are evolving, I'm sure your organization's programming is being shifted. I think one thing that is important is to make changes to the ad copy, whether to reflect what is happening at the organization. So if you don't have tickets available anymore because things have been postponed, make sure you adjust the ad copy so that it doesn't say buy tickets, but rather say maybe learn more or view schedule or any other call to action. And I think it's also important to take a look at your ad copy and see if it is sensitive to what is happening in the world. We want to make sure that ad copy, which is public facing, is a good representation of your organization. So I would definitely take a look at your ad copy. And if there are live streams or online or virtual programming that is happening, I would add that as either a full campaign or ad extension, so that people who may not know that that is happening is able to be aware that there are online programming that they can enjoy.
Okay, here's a request for, can you show those takeaways slide again, back up a couple maybe?
Absolutely.
There you go. Okay, bingo. Is it better or worse to use the organization name in the ad description copy for branded programs?
I would say you can always test it. So you can have ad variation that has the brand name and without. I think if the keywords you're betting on are branded searches, I think it's always good to have that name in the headline or description so that people know that they're navigating to the right website. One other issue that a lot of clients have, and I'm sure it's an ongoing process for everyone, is sometimes there are ticket resellers who run similar ad copy or use a venue name. So I would definitely suggest including something like official site, or make sure to note that it's the website of the organization, just so that searchers have a second reassurance that they're navigating to the right page.
All right. What's the benefit of putting real media dollars behind a campaign, paid search versus grant account?
Yeah. So as we said earlier when we were talking about the grant accounts, we have a limit on the bid, so we can only bid up to $2, and also we're not able to adjust bids based on targeting. So in paid search, real paid search, you would be able to bid above $2, as well as utilize some more granular targeting, like if there are two people who are searching the same keywords and one has been to the website and one has not, then we're able to set a bid adjustment for the person who has been to the website, because they're more likely to take action on the website, and they're probably further down that marketing funnel. So I think those are great optimization and granular levers that we can pull. And it's certainly a lot more competitive to use real media dollar, because we're able to be a little bit more aggressive when we need to.
Okay, I have one more question here, unless somebody sends one in real quick. So this is your chance. All right. How do you set search budgets, especially if you want to put real media dollars behind it? How do you know how much is the right amount to spend?
Yeah, I think if you have a Google Grant account, that is a great place to start off your campaign, so that you can get a sense of how much you might be spending or what the performance might be. Of course, we have to take it with a grain of salt, because there are lots of limitations that hinder the performance of that campaign. But Google also has tools in the ad platform, like Keyword Planner, or that will give you a historical volume for certain searches, that will help you calculate how much you want to spend. And I always suggest definitely taking a look at the budget mid-campaign and continuously, to make sure that maybe there is more money that should be put behind that campaign, or we need to scale back because it's probably going to be better spent on a different kind of campaign, whether it's Facebook or Instagram. And I think what's a lot of times tricky is that because search is user-centric, if it's a new production, there's not going to be a lot of search volume. So sometimes it's hard to gauge that. So I think it's always a balancing act and kind of checking in throughout the campaign.
Okay, Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today and your wonderful presentation. I know you put a lot of work into the preparation. We did record today's session. We will distribute that recording to everyone who has registered for today so that you can review and share it with your colleagues. We do have another webinar by another capacity interactive person coming up on this Friday, talking about creating content. So please tune in for that one. And don't forget to check your inbox for our announcements for going forward after this webinar series is completed. So Sarah, a big round of virtual applause. Thanks so much, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.